Hi team, welcome to the weekly practice tutorial where I'm going to go over your questions on Monday's weekly practice. Let's get started. Okay, so for question 1, we are dividing 2 and 5600ths by 5. The first thing you should know is that, or notice I should say, is that 2 and 5600ths is less than 5. So my answer should be all decimal just from that thing. So the first thing we have to do is set up. And I'm going to use the short division method because that seems to be the way most of you are solving the problems. So first thing we ask ourselves, how many times can 5 go into 2? It cannot. So we put a 0 there. Go ahead and bring your decimal up. 5 times 0 is 0. Subtract 2. Then you're going to carry your 2 over. So then we ask ourselves, how many times will 5 go into 25? Well, that's 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25, and there is no remainder, so we have nothing to carry over. And then we ask ourselves, how many times will 5 go into 6? That's 1 time, and 1 times 5 is 5. Subtract that, we have 1 remainder. So remember, when we have remainders now with decimals, we have to add that 0 and keep dividing. So you're going to carry this, and it becomes a 10. 5 goes into 10 twice. So our final answer would be 512 thousandths. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can actually solve this problem. So we have 6 divided by 2/3. So the first way you can do this is to model it. So we're going to draw our 6 boxes. Sorry, they're not perfect rectangles. Okay, and then it's 6 divided by 2/3. So we're looking at thirds. So that means we need to break them into thirds. And then the 2/3 tells us how to group them. So for every 2/3, I'm going to make a group. So those are 2/3, they become a group. A group, a group, a group, a group, and a group. But we have some left over. So we can group those 2 together, and that makes 2/3. Same thing on this side. And then we also could put these 2 together to make another 2/3. And if we count that, each group, this is 1 group, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 groups. Or sorry, 9. I forgot the one at the bottom. 9, I was about to say it's not 8, is 9. Okay, I'm going to show you another method that you can use to solve this. Okay, so we're going to take the visual we just did, and I'm going to show you mathematically what the visual is actually doing. So if you think about back to the visual, you made 6 holes and you cut them into thirds, and that actually made 18 thirds. Okay, well, and I know we can say that because 6 is equivalent to 18 thirds, because if we ratio this to become thirds, we keep the same identity because 1 times 3 is 3, 6 times 3 is 18, so it is equivalent. So then we can do the 18 thirds divided by 2/3, which gives us 9 groups because 18 divided by 2 gives us 9, and 3 divided by 3 just gives us 1, so 9 over 1 would make 9 holes. Okay, question 3, we have adding fractions, so we have 3/5 plus 1/3. So these denominators are unlike, so we have to make them alike, the same, common denominators. So if I look at my 5s and I look at my 3s, I have to think what numbers do they have in common. So if you think of your 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. Okay, 5 can go to 15. That's the first time that's a number 5 can go into. So I'm going to change them both to 15. But I can't just change them and put the 3 here. That's not how that works. You have to follow the rule of, okay, if I change the denominator, I have to also change the numerator. Okay, so if I multiplied this by 3, to keep it equivalent, I also need to multiply the top, which gives you 9/15. Okay, same thing with the 3. If I change the 3 into 15, I multiplied that by 5, so I need to do the same thing to the 1, which gives you 5/15. Now we can add those, so 9/15, plus 5/15 makes a total of 4/15. And you do not have to simplify it because it's not an improper fraction. Okay, so for question number 4, you just had to compare the following. But we have to remember what these lines right here actually mean, that they mean the absolute value. So first, before we even start the problem, we have to think, what is absolute value? How do I find absolute value? So if I think of the absolute value, I should be thinking of the distance from 0. So if we look at -8, the absolute value of -8 is 8 spaces from 0. So this is really 8. And the absolute value of -10 would be 10 spaces from 0. So then you can compare, oh, the 10 is a further distance from 0, so it is greater than the 8. Okay, on the next one, we're comparing -5 to the absolute value of -4 to the absolute value of -5. Well, once again, the -4 does not have the absolute value symbol, so it's not absolute value, but the -5 does. So we have to think, how far is -5 from 0? It is 5 spaces. So this one is also, the alligator should be eating this side, so it's -4 is less than the absolute value of -5. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Bye.